From the Allen Media Worldwide Headquarters Studios, high atop 2 Turtle Creek Tower, this is Deconstructing Dallas. Greetings, everyone out there listening to Deconstructing Dallas. This is Ryan Trimble, joined today by the always well-dressed Shawn Williams. Shawn, welcome, sir.
And it's hard to figure out what to wear this time of year. It's very hot. I see you've chosen not to go with the tie.
I've gone with the uniform minus the tie, the navy suit, shirt, open collar.
That's good. I don't know what color these pants are, so I'm not even going to try to guess.
I didn't want to ask. There's some sort of burnt salmon, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Better burnt salmon than burnt orange, I like to say.
Spoken like a true Aggie.
Okay. And we've got a really great guest that you had the opportunity to talk to this week because I was unable to be on the interview. But Lindsay Graham from American History Tellers was our guest this week, and I listened to you guys' conversation. It was awesome.
Yeah, Shawn, I had a blast. I was so excited. I've been talking up the Wondery podcast, both American History Tellers and Business Wars, that one of their other podcasts, to you for a long time. Got you started on
you turned me on to Business Wars, and it has been very informative. I've learned a lot from Nintendo versus Sony to HBO versus Netflix versus Blockbuster. But then you also turned me on to American History Tellers, which has a local tie, hence Deconstructing Dallas, which has also not disappointed. That's
great. That's right, Shawn. I was really excited to learn that Lindsay Graham, the host of American History Tellers, was also had an SMU tie. He'd been at SMU for nearly a decade. We get into it in the interview. It was really great to catch up with him, but he had been most recently the head of direct marketing for SMU. So all that mail that hit my mailbox was thanks to Lindsay. And guess what? It worked because I've renewed my Mustang Club. I've renewed, just a bunch of stuff. They get a lot of my money, Shawn, you know.
And now it comes full circle. Well, it usually does come back to SMU with you most of the time.
True.
But it's really nice to have one of the leading podcasts anywhere to have a local tie. And, with us coming up on the 4th of July, there is a specific revolutionary kind of themed episodes is where they are with American History Tellers, and that's kind of what you had an opportunity to talk to Lindsay about.
Yeah, that's right. Their next 6-part series is on the Revolutionary War. They started out, the first episode that launched last week, mid last week, was on George Washington. According to Lindsay, we're going to hear about the British view on it, a female view, what the war was like for women of the time, Native Americans. I mean, this guy is so great. The way he really, distills down really dense information and puts you on a front row seat into, the time period. I got you into the Age of Jackson podcast that he did 6-part series on Andrew Jackson and that time period. It's great. I love it. I hope everybody will go on iTunes, Stitcher, your favorite listening platform, and check out Lindsay's podcast, American History Tellers by Wondery.
I think what I like about American History Tellers and Lindsay and his portrayal is that it's not a one-sided, as you mentioned, it's not a one-sided view. It's, America in its founding was a very diverse place. The people were diverse, the languages were diverse, and oftentimes, as we've talked about, even leading up to this, the portrayal has not been diverse. And so one of the things, I've obviously been listening to Hamilton, and Malia and I went to see Hamilton in Chicago back during spring break. Last month, I was watching the John Adams documentary, not documentary, but miniseries from back in the day on HBO. And then, so the Revolutionary War period is something that has always really been interesting to me, but a lot of times it's only a one-sided view. And so, even listening to the first episode of this podcast about the American Revolution, I was kind of listening just for certain things. And probably after about 5 minutes, I was ready to text you saying, hey, I'm in. I'm totally in, because it gave a view of the American Revolution that I had not heard before. And kind of similar, and it was really good for me coming off the John Adams miniseries, because even when I turned that one on, within the first 10 minutes, I'm thinking, okay, am I going to be able to stick with this? And they showed Crispus Attucks, who was believed to be the first casualty of the American Revolutionary War, and, African American who was killed in the Boston Massacre. And so, I'm looking for full portrayals, and through one episode of American History Tellers on the Revolutionary War, I think I can say that we heard that, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So everybody jump on there. It's a real treat, and the way he tells the stories is just a lot of fun. So exciting. I was excited, as I said, that Lindsay has an SMU tie. And speaking of SMU, pivoting to the SMU Deason Center for Criminal Justice Reform, we had some exciting news over the weekend, Shawn.
Yeah, it was very good to see our client, the Deason Center for Criminal Justice Reform Center, and the inaugural director, Pamela Metzger, representing the Dallas Morning News in the Sunday Points edition. She wrote a piece specifically talking about how long defendants must wait for the counsel to kick in, for a lawyer to kick in. We hear, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, at least in a lot of the CSI and
every
Law and Order
SVU
shows
ever.
that I watch. But, Pam talks about, Professor Metzger talks about, when does that kick in? And specifically, June was the 10th anniversary, or within June, the 10th anniversary of the Rothgary versus Gillespie County case, where Mr. Rothgary really waited 6 months before he was afforded an attorney in a case where he was stopped and accused of having a firearm charge. And so I wanted to direct our listeners to the Dallas Morning News online or in Sunday's edition, where it talks about how long must defendants wait, which had a really cool piece of art as well from Pedro Molina from newsart.com, which I thought was cool to tie into Pam's article. So we do want to encourage everyone to check that out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, check it out. It's a really key proponent of what makes our country great and should make our country great is the Sixth Amendment. And hopefully this article helps move the ball forward on actually having timely representation for folks. So,
and hopefully more people will understand how fortunate we are to have this center here in our local university, where they are focused on criminal justice reform. And the sentence of Alice Johnson, which was commuted by President Trump, one of the Deason Center resident attorneys worked on that case that was also advocated on behalf by Kim Kardashian. So, this is a center that is making national news. Yeah,
it is, Shawn, and it's really interesting. I think this is a very key moment for this topic, criminal justice reform. You see, folks on the left have kind of always had this view, and you see a lot of folks on the right coming into the space and getting involved. And so I think we're kind of in the crucible of criminal justice reform, or at least the next generation of criminal justice reform, and hopefully undoing some of the atrocities of some of the ways that folks in the system have been handled and what they've gone through. And so hopefully, have some faith that folks up on the hilltop will be taking care of this, Pam Metzger and her crew. So,
well, congratulations to Pam. And when we come back, we will hear Ryan and a great interview with Lindsay Graham of American History Tellers. So stay tuned with us. We will be right back after this. This is Ryan Trimble, Sean Williams, Deconstructing Dallas.
Together we.
Like the Tower Green to celebrate victory.
Together we
are building Dallas's emerging urban university.
Together we
are finding ways to fight Alzheimer's disease.
We are the University of North Texas, the UNT Health Science Center, and the University of North Texas at Dallas. Together we are the UNT system. To learn more about the UNT system, visit untsystem.edu.
Deconstructing Dallas, Ryan Trimble, Sean Williams, and we are thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be joined today by a man whose podcast, unlike Deconstructing Dallas, debuted early January as the #1 podcast on iTunes this year. Of course, we're speaking of the host of Wondery's American History Tellers. Welcome, Lindsay Graham. Lindsay, how are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, we are outstanding. Just trying to stay cool here in Dallas. Hopefully, everybody's air conditioning is working. So, Lindsay, we are huge fans of American History Tellers. I got my mom started on the Prohibition series. She thought that was great. Sean and I, we went back and forth on the Age of Jackson, and we were really excited for the 6-episode saga on the Revolutionary War. The first episode, of course, timely, coming out right before July 4th. So you guys are clearly professionals, but tell us about the secret sauce of American History Tellers. This is a wildly popular podcast. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the sauce, I think, honestly, it's popular because it's telling the story of American history. We've all heard these topics over and over again, even if they're obscure ones that aren't normally taught, like Prohibition or some of the smaller aspects of the space race. But what we often are taught are just the facts and the figures, the names and the dates. And we really wanted to bring a storytelling tradition to American history and find out more of the everyman story in these momentous events. And I don't think there's any more momentous of an event in American history than the American Revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. And you use the word everyman. I certainly think that's one of the best qualities about your show. You take a lot of dense material and you shape it and you craft it and you put the listener in, you immerse them in this front row seat experience with history. Tell us about your passion for history. How did you come up with this idea to produce the podcast in this manner?
Well, I was thinking just the other day that when I first went to college, I had imagined myself that I would become a history teacher, not knowing anything about the world, and abandoned that and went off in different directions. But somehow I've returned to it and become now full-time a history teacher of sorts. So it's a bit of a homecoming. I've always been interested in history and teaching, but I never figured that they would be who I am or my profession. I'm an audio guy, have a studio here in Dallas, and have recorded a bunch of bands, do some composing for the music, for music for film and TV. In fact, the theme to American History Tellers I recorded and composed. So I'm comfortable in the studio and in front of microphones. And it was through a podcast that we did with Wondery earlier last year called Terms. It's an audio drama that got me acquainted with that company and Hernan Lopez. And he brought to me the idea. We just started as a casual conversation. I think he started the phone call with, "You're a history buff, right?" And we went from there. We tossed around some ideas, and we thought, and this, of course, was probably August of last year, so almost a year ago, and we decided the Cold War was something we should investigate. At that time, we had enormous tensions with North Korea and then Russians, and it seemed a little too much of a deja vu moment. So looking back at the Cold War, it seemed appropriate.
Yeah, and that series was outstanding. Obviously, it was chart-topping. And so can you tell us a little bit about, why this style, why this, how do you come up with the ideas to tell the stories, to
to put people. You do the voices. I mean, I'm looking forward to your Martha Washington impression here. Hopefully in the coming